Good morning.
If they've started the meeting, the Livable Neighborhoods is muted out.
I haven't heard anything that started the meeting yet.
And do you have us unmuted on? I think one of the biggest meetings we've had here today. We have Randy Greaves here. He's our historic preservationist. But we're happy that you're here. Without further ado, we'll have Anthony Lee from our health department present on his program No Lead KCK. Because they're having audio issues, so we'll see if that'll.
Everyone can hear me? This is kind of. Morning, everyone. I'm Anthony Lee Jr. I am the lead hazard control program supervisor for the No Lead KCK program, which is located in the health department. If it does sound familiar to some of you all, community development held this grant back in 2017. And the grant ended in 21. And then the health department, we decided to take this grant over because we felt like it was very important for our community. We feel like there are a lot of old housing here in Wyandotte County. We want to make sure that we capture all of those and make sure children can live in a lead safe. So let me get this presentation pulled up. Awesome, thank you. So today I'm just going to talk to you kind of about the history of lead, the background, kind of signs and symptoms, things to look for, what you need to do. Once there has been a child in the home that has been identified as having a elevated blood lead level, and also adults, because we have some occupations here in Wyandotte County that do expose adults on a daily basis. Talk to you about safe practices and what you can do best to keep your children in your home safe and the adults as well. I'll just start here. What is lead? Lead is a heavy metal that has been used for thousands of years to make products and is a part of our world today. Being exposed to too much lead can cause serious health problems, and young children and developing fetus are most at risk. Lead has been used in numerous products, including paint, ceramics, pipes, plumbing, solders, gasoline, batteries, ammunition, and cosmetics. And a lot of lead is used in those same products today. Most lead exposure comes from homes that were built before 1978 because of the use of lead-based paint in those homes. Lead, as some of you probably know, is very good. It stays on the house very well. It doesn't chip, doesn't flake, but over time it does chip and flake. And what happens is it falls and creates lead dust. Crawl and walk. They're crawling on those surfaces and they're putting their hands in their mouth because lead has a sweet taste to it. So they're like, oh, this one. I'm just going to keep eating it, or I'm going to eat. That's why we find that it's so important in a lot of these older homes. A lot of families are moving in and they're being exposed on a daily basis. There is no safe level of lead. So what happens is the lead level of 3.5 and above, adults and children. And people, we want to see it under 3.5, but I always tell families there's no safe level of lead. We want to see it at 0. We want to make sure that there is no type of exposure at all, just because of the damage you can do to children. Not everywhere. Air, food, water, soil, paint, toys, etc. There was a few years back, there were, fidget spinners were a huge thing. And some of those were being painted with lead-based paint. And kids were putting those in their mouths and chewing on them, and they came to find out they had to do product recalls and off the market. It's so very small, you cannot see it. It's very, 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 very tiny. You can't see it. So you never know where the lead is coming from. We typically tell people when they're cleaning their homes, make sure you don't use a broom, because what you're going to do is just sweep it from one corner to the next corner. So what you want to do is get something like a Swiffer wet jet surface first, and then it's able to pick that stuff up. So, or use a HEPA vacuum filter, a HEPA vacuum. Not everyone has that, and those are expensive. So we try to give people the advice that they can use, and it's practical for them on a daily basis. And children usually eat lead while they play. For example, I had a kid. I was trying to talk to the family, like, how does your child being exposed to lead? And I was like, do they play outside in dirt areas? And they're like, yeah. They make mud pies. And I'm like, oh. So what happens is the lead is falling off the exterior of the home into the soil, contaminating the soil, and the kids over there making mud pies and eating them. So we try to figure out every possible scenario we can to be able to help these families out and make sure they keep their children away from those areas. These are the most common sources of lead: lead dust, lead-based paint, soil, food, water, folk medicine. Kind of self-explanatory. Food, certain spices from different countries, people bring over with them, and some of those do contain lead. So that's how they're exposed there in water, through the pipes. Everybody's heard about those issues that we've had. And then some folk medicines. In those like own ceramic looking holders and they kind of crush it up. Those are made with lead-based paint. So, we kind of let people know like, hey, that's not a good idea. But we know it's a lot of cultural differences. So we want to make sure we be respectful as well. Children 6 years old and under have a nervous system that is still developing. That's why children are at high risk. They absorb lead more easily than an adult. And they can just be harmed with the smallest amount of lead. If there is lead where your child lives or plays, it can get onto their hands, or their toys very easily. And when that happens, children can swallow tiny bits of lead from their toys and hands, which exposes them to the toxic substance. I try to explain to families like, hey, you need to wash children's toys at least once a week. Make sure you wipe, tossing them, throwing them, everywhere. And so, they're just lead-based paint just accumulates on there. So we want to make sure that we take every precaution as usual. How are your children exposed to lead-based paint? If you see peeling, chipping paint on the inside or outside of your home, keep your child away from those areas. Children tend to pick up paint chips and put them in their mouth. Opening and closing windows and doors can cause the paint to crumble into dust because it is a friction surface. So if you have older windows and you're constantly opening them, closing them, that lead-based paint is just crumbling off of there. And we see a lot of children go towards the window sills and they bite on them. So that they're kind of getting that fix there. So we try to have people keep their children away from the windows that do have lead-based paint. And I talked about this before, but the soil as well on the outside of the home. For example, if you have a garden or something that you have next to your home, soil can rush down to your garden and you can be eating contaminated fruits. So this is something you have. Children's health risks. So it can cause impaired growth and hearing loss, behavioral issues, reduced IQ, decreased attention span, and in severe cases of high lead levels, they can lead to seizures, coma, and even death. Currently, I'm dealing with a case. The child has a really, really high lead level, and the mother says that they put everything in their mouths. Really, I mean everything. And the mom said that the child has autism, so I'm like, okay, is this an official diagnosis? What's going on here? But the child's blood level was so high. So I told you 3.5, right? The child's blood level is around 46. I'm like, so is it really autism, or is it issues from your child being exposed to lead over a long period of time? So, I'm currently working with that right now, just trying to figure out what we can do to get the family out of the home. It's obviously coming from the home because the child resides every day. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with there. These are just some signs and symptoms. These are signs and symptoms of everything. Really, it could be anything. So what I tell people, I'm like, just get your child tested. If you just have any inkling, any feeling about it, just go get them tested. These are like symptoms of everything. It's symptoms of COVID, So yeah. And what are the signs of lead? So most children with lead poisoning may seem completely normal. Some don't have any symptoms at all. They're like, oh, my kid's fine. He's still running around playing and acting silly, being themselves. But lead can be hurting your child even if you don't notice any symptoms. Lead poisoning symptoms may not occur until the child is very ill. So to get tested, they should be testing them at 12. I would just ask the provider to test them, yearly. Diet. So well-balanced diet is very, very important to help the body absorb smaller amounts of lead. So eating foods with calcium, iron, vitamin C, even fiber helps the body absorb smaller amounts of lead. Eating foods high in fats and oils are not good because they help the body absorb more lead. So ensure children are washing their hands before eating. I have a 2-year-old and I know how they are. They're just, I'm not washing my hands. I'm ready to put everything else in my mouth. So I just try to emphasize to families like washing their hands is important, especially after play. We want to make sure that we eliminate that possibility of exposure as well. And do not use imported pottery to store or serve your food in. That's the story because they have been made. These are just some foods, foods high in calcium, iron, vitamin C. This is what we typically recommend to families that they give their children if they do have lead poisoning. This is what they should give their children anyway, since if they don't have lead poisoning, just because it's healthy. But we want to make sure that we give them, every tool that they need to be able to make sure they get the chocolate. It's extremely high blood lead levels. So, for example, the kid that's a 46, we have recommended. So it's used to bring high blood levels down. It brings other minerals and other elements to help the body get rid of lead. It's a long process, but this is kind of like the last resort. So we want to make sure that we can do everything we can to get the level down naturally without actually having to do this. What can you do to protect your child from lead? So there are many simple ways you can do right now to protect your child from lead. Visit the doctor's office. I try to tell families, just get your child tested. That's the best thing you can do. That way you kind of know what's going on, where the lead level's at. And if your home has lead poisoning, that will kind of give you an indication. Lead. And sometimes they could be staying at daycare, they could be staying at home. So then you can kind of figure out, eliminate those sources and try to figure out where the lead is coming from and how your child's being exposed. So that's an awesome way to monitor and prevent your child from having to do if your child is lead poisoning. If you have a child who is lead poisoned in your home, make sure you get your home tested to identify the sources of lead. That can be found in spices, dishes, jewelry, traditional eye cosmetic, and many other items. Once a source of lead exposure is identified, make sure items are removed from the home or out of reach of children. Incorporate adequate intake of the iron, vitamin C, calcium, and fiber-rich foods to help eliminate the lead from the body, and follow up with your provider. Typically 1 to 3 months is what we want to see you testing if a child lead level. Mostly 3 if the lead level is low. But if it's 15, we want to see it probably monthly just to make sure that we stay on top of it. Lead poisoning in pregnant women. Pregnant women with high blood lead levels can transfer lead to the baby through the placenta or through breast milk. So it is very important that providers test the mothers to make sure that they do not have lead. That way they don't pass it to their babies. Breastfeeding is still recommended unless the mother's blood level is so high that it would put the baby at risk. Many pregnant women have cravings to eat non-food items during pregnancy, and this can cause exposure to lead. So visiting your medical provider, they should be on top of that and making sure the pregnant lady is taken care of and making sure that they are healthy. My occupation exposed my child to lead poisoning. So adults can expose children to lead through their work or hobbies. Lead dust can be on your clothes, hair, and car. I did have a child that was lead poisoned, and the mother worked at a battery. So I was like, are you but I was like, so what is he putting anything in his mouth in particular that you've noticed? I was putting my hair ties in his mouth, and I'm like, oh, and I was like, the same hair ties that you're wearing at work, and she's like, yeah. Oh, she's like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. So we were able to figure that out, and he was just eating her hair ties because he was like, oh, this tastes good. So we try to eliminate everything we can, just try to figure that out. Adults who are exposed to lead daily need to shower and clean up and change clothes before they interact with children. Wash their clothes separate from the rest of the families. Make sure that, like I said, they shower and clean up, and don't not shower and clean up, or wash your hair at least, and get in the car and roll down the windows and just let it blow in the back seat of the car. So don't do that either. Okay, so adults are mainly exposed to lead by breathing, so inhaling lead dust. I know workers at a certain battery plant, and there's an area where they can't, it's so loud that they can't hear each other. So they take off their respirators to say, hey, what's, and they keep all day long. Then their lead level goes up to 30. And you're like, is there a way that you can figure out, a better way to communicate? It's really hard for them. And that's kind of the risk they take. So I just try to help them figure out like, hey, don't take your respirator off. If you guys have an iPad, you know, is there something else you can do to just keep yourself from having to take your respirator off? We make sure that they wash their hands and clean up before they go eat. And most of them do, they do pretty well. They kind of know the risk, but sometimes they need that education every now and then. And these are occupations for lead exposures, welding, paint manufacturing, battery manufacturing. That's kind of the typical ones that I see. Auto body shop, home remodeling. Those are firing ranges, indoor firing ranges. You know, they need to make sure they have great ventilation, make sure they're taking precautions because those are huge exposures for lead. What are signs of lead poisoning in adults? Else, yeah, fatigue, uneasy stomach. So, I mean, if you're having any of these issues or you're working in that type of environment, just get tested. Your lead exposure at work. Keep your work area clean and do not dry sweep or shake lead dust off your clothes or other surfaces. Wash your hands, store your work clothes in a separate locker. Then your street clothes, shower, wash your hairs, clean up. Do not take your work clothes and shoes home. If you must, put your work clothes in a plastic bag, seal or tie it. I know a lot of just kind of, yeah, I wear the same shoes inside the house and I walk through the house. I'm like, please don't do that. Just leave them at the door, leave them outside, leave them in your truck. Whatever you need to do to not take that in the house and expose everyone. Like my family from lead, from occupational lead. So best practice is to leave your work clothes, shoes at work. Keep your work clothes and shoes away from areas where children play. Typical stuff, wash hands, children's toys, vacuum carpeted areas, mop floors, and have your family tested. Of a pre-1978 home. Renovating your pre-1970 home can hurt children and adults. So take extra care when you're remodeling. Use safe methods when working on your home. Limit the dust you make. Don't let the dust spread through your house and clean up all dust thoroughly as you work and when the work is complete. If you know anybody who is doing your remodeling on a pre-1978 home, make sure that they are certified and they know what. You want people power washing the exterior of the home. That's just going to spread paint chips and lead dust everywhere. Sure that you do have someone who is certified to do that work because it is very, very all over everything to make sure that they're catching the lead dust very thoroughly when they're done.
Can
So,
I ask a question
yes, ma'am.
at this time? So when you say remodeling,
Mhm.
like, are you specifically referencing if we're doing anything that would change something about the structure? And I'm asking, because what about like if or specific about that? Because so most of Wyandotte County is pre-1978.
Handyman for one.
I passed the mic around.
Oh.
I didn't even.
Building codes, and they have very specific steps that you have, for in other words, if you're painting the inside of a house that has lead paint, paint up so far. And make sure that there's no loose material above that, and that will keep your kids safe. Outside, what you were saying, if you're gonna power wash. The same thing, like the asbestos remediation.
Question online too. Do you have information that Kansas City, Kansas public schools can share with parents and families?
So it has like information on lead in children, lead in soil, occupational lead hazards. It's actually on our website too. So website's a mess right now. But it does have that information on there. And so it's just information families can take with them and they can look at it and it has a lot of this information on it. So if you want to go to the website, or I can just email it to you and then you can email it out to everyone.
Yeah, we can do that.
That would be amazing. But yes, like you said, if like you said, power washing, if you put on the outside of the home, we typically try to get people away from using those guns. Sometimes we want to use it like encapsulation paint. It just keeps that film, won't allow the lead-based paint to flake off and do anything. Very, very good. So walls, you're scraping paint, we tell people just test your home first, make sure your home is not lead, doesn't have lead in it, and then after that you can do what you want. So yeah.
So we live in. And there's.
Probably want to use encapsulation paint. The paint, if your home is over 100 years old, you can use encapsulation paint. That will help. If you want to paint over it, that's completely fine. With the encapsulation paint, that will be the best solution.
For families to test their.
You're one resource with the No Lead KCK program. So I was going to talk. Is there someone else? I saw another hand. Okay. Yes. I'll get to it. Safer modeling, keep everyone out of your work area, move or cover your furniture, cover floors while you work, shutter cover windows and doors while working, exterior remodeling, place poly sheeting on the ground. So those are just some tips. Use high heat to remove old paint. Heat guns or plumber's torches, don't use those. Don't use dangerous paint strippers to remove old paint. Limit the dust you make when using power tools. Power washing should not be used to remove paint. I know we talked about that a lot, but it's kind of something that they recommend that we don't do anymore. And hand scrape paint only after wetting the surface and clean as you go. So I received this and I was like, this is great data because I hadn't had any. So these are the homes that were built before 1979 or later, between 1950 and 1978 and before 1950. And you see where Wyandotte County is. We're here with the 1979 or later, which is fine. But here, between 1950 and 1978 and 1950, we have a lot of old housing stock, and you guys already know this. And compared to Jackson County, they have a program as well that helps with lead-based paint, kind of just like ours. And they're dealing with the same thing. So we just have a lot of old housing stock, and I figured this data was very useful just to show people. This was done in 2021. So, we just wanted to be able to let people see the numbers so you kind of know what's going on. And houses that have peeling paint on the interior, exterior of the home, look at where we're at. 24.5% out of the entire metro area. Program is needed for our community. It really is. It's very important. It's very important that we get families who have young children in to see us. That way we can make sure we get them taken care of. These are just some pictures of lead-based paint. This is peeling, chipping. This is what we call alligatoring. This is peeling and chipping paint. If you see anything like this, it's possible that it is lead-based paint. So take precaution. If you are working on your home, or if you see something like this, you can say, hey, call the health department. They have a program. They may be able to help you. So that's where it brings me to the No Lead KCK program. So in December of 2022, the Unified Government Public Health Department, we received $3.9 million from the Office of Lead Hazard Control in Healthy Homes. Our goal for this grant is to remediate 85 homes in 4 years that were built before 1978. With prioritization going to families with children under the age of 6 years old and pregnant women. Grandparents can also apply for this grant if their children are under the age of 6 and visits the home 6 hours or more per week. And along with, last grant period, we own to own their home, which was a huge disservice because a lot of the families I talked to were renting. So this time around, we were like, let's not do that again. We are going to work with renters and home owner occupied as well. And for the rental portion, you have to have a child in the home that's 6 years old or younger. There's a catch. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, they do require us to have some type of contract with the owner of the property, saying that if that person were to move out, that they would give priority to a family who has a child 6 years old and younger because it is a lead safe environment. The only catch. But we want to make sure that there isn't any type of barriers. For rental property owners, they do not have to provide us any match for anything, any work that we do on the home. A lot of grants do, they ask them to pay a portion, but we want to eliminate that barrier. So completely free. Okay. But we want to make sure that we let people know we're very, very excited about that. We work on multifamily units. That's kind of a bigger project, but we want to make sure that we kind of eliminate all those barriers that we can. This is my direct line. I'm still trying to get staffed. So you can call me for now. Soon I'll have my admin coordinator, and she will be able to assist with any questions and filling out applications and all of that. So I'm very excited to have her, but I've already started taking applications or sending them out to families and having them fill it out. HUD requires 1 million documents, so I try to give people a head start. That way they can get all of that they need for our program. So all that I have for you guys, I know I took up a lot of time. You guys have any questions? Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost to get vested?
I'm not sure what the
I'm
cost.
thinking, well, okay, but I'm thinking.
Yes, for people, so for people who don't qualify for our program, can't recommend any companies, but there are some companies here in Kansas City. I think there's Titan Environmental. We personally use a company called Hernley Environmental. They're based out of Lawrence. They do some of our assessments when we go out and test the homes. I can't tell you a price on it. I can tell you it's kind of expensive, but I can't give you an accurate kind of see, depending, because there are different levels of testing. They can do a full lead inspection risk assessment. That's what we do on our homes. Those are a little bit more expensive because they have to test every surface in the home. They test every surface, they do dust wipes, they do soil samples. We want to make sure we try to capture where lead-based paint is. So we do a full lead inspection risk assessment. They have a risk assessment that doesn't test every surface, which they use assumptions for different areas. Like this window, it doesn't have lead-based paint, we'll assume the rest don't, which is not always the case. There are varying levels, but there are companies here in Kansas City that do test.
Family has some children. They're concerned, they just call their own private physician.
Yeah. Yes.
They can do it.
Yep, they do them at the doctor's office. We also do testing here at the health department as well. So if they don't have a primary care physician, feel free to call them down to the health department and make an appointment. We'll have those and children. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, so with your no lead KCK program, are you completely removing the lead paint? Are you encapsulating it? How does that abatement process?
Right, yes. So we'll do a mixture. We'll do some encapsulating. We'll also do some abatement. I personally want to do more abatement than anything. The federal government, sometimes they don't want you to spend the money, but we did, when I did go to a conference on DC, it was Seattle. A lot of grantees had that same, like, should we abate it? Because some of the grantees were going back into homes they had went into 10 years ago. Installation only lasts so long. And so, there was kind of a consensus from the federal panel saying, hey, if you guys need to abate it, we're getting more data in now. We're seeing that abatement is the best, sometimes the best solution. Do what you can, make sure you get approval from us, but we want you to do that. And that's my goal. I just want to abate. Want to get rid of it. That way we don't have to worry about it. Families don't have to worry about it. in 10 years, 15 years, so that's kind of my goal. So good question. Other question? Yeah.
Saying you put water on them and I wash my hands.
Yeah, yeah.
I do a couple of reminders and when you say something that's very basic,
Yeah.
but yet. As adults, we're guilty, we just get. I want, I do this and I think I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
And it's worse.
Yeah.
Than if you hadn't. Say,
Of course.
about. Properly wash your. Some of those basic things, just.
Want to make sure you wash your hands really good. Viruses and everything else. So yeah, I get it. Yes, sir. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Like I said, Kayla, I don't know if you mind, like, just if people want this presentation, you can send it out. If you have any questions or if you have any referrals, please tell them, let us know that we were down at the health department, come see us and we'll talk to them about this program, okay?
Audio is still choppy. Sorry about that. We're working on it. Maybe our mic is going bad and we need to keep it close to our mouth or look into getting a new one here. So whenever somebody's in the room here that has an update, I'll try to, would you come up here and provide it into the mic? So we'll go ahead and start with updates. It was remediated pretty easily, but it was just shocking. Yeah, scary. So
Excuse me, we still can't hear you, it's choppy. So I think if you guys talk right into that microphone, those of us who are on Zoom and online can hear you better. I guess that didn't help. Still choppy.
okay, oh, we're gonna have to turn the sound off in here.
We can hear you now. Well, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we can. Okay, we might have to do some adjusting here. Okay, well, bear with us. We'll make this work and hopefully at our next meeting, we'll have a new mic.
Kayla,
So the mic,
it's a lot better now.
now we can't hear you guys. Okay. All right, we'll mess with our audio settings here. So we're using the speaker on, or the microphone on my laptop, but then in order for us to hear anyone talking on Zoom, we're gonna have to switch the audio to our larger speakers. So it's gonna be some tricky back and forth, but hopefully this will get us through today. So we're gonna do our first updates. We've got quite a few today here, so we'll go ahead and start with the mayor's office. If somebody from the mayor's office wants to come up and talk nearby my laptop.
Is that good?
I think they can.
I'm just doing this so that if somebody online needs to talk, I'll push this and then we can all.
Okay.
Okay.
Cut it back off when it's. not
Okay.
working.
Yep.
All right, good morning, and on behalf of the mayor, I send greetings. I want to introduce myself. My name is Irene Galdillo, and I am Mayor Garner's new chief of staff. Happy to be here today, but I just want to send a message in my kind of learning opportunity. I am in week 3, so please, with some grace. I want to reaffirm his commitment to community voice and his commitment to you, those boots on the ground, and really connecting some of the work that you're doing and then the task force. So if you are not aware, the mayor organized at least 10. I'm going to call these off. Some of you are involved, some of you may be interested, but he has a business and economic development, arts, culture, and economic development, community health, wellness, and recreation, government efficiency, community safety and justice, unhoused residents and neighbors in need, charter ordinance, and he has 2 new ones coming up, the World Cup readiness, as well as Quindaro ruins. So what we're asking is that if anyone is interested in any of those, to please give me a call so we can connect you. The idea is to really kind of begin to really take action and make change in a lot of these opportunities, but also connect the work that you're doing on the ground. My number is 913. I don't have cards yet, so I apologize. 573-5011. You can also reach Brian Perez, but I'm not going to give his because I barely know mine yet. My email is icaudillo@ykckk.org. And I'll get that information to you. I'll get so that it can go into the minutes.
Great, thank you.
Unless there are any questions, I appreciate it. You will see my face more here, Stevie Williams, and we definitely want to connect with the work that you're doing.
Great, thank you. KCK School District.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. Good morning. Wow, where did the summer go? Went by very fast, like a blink of an eye. I just have a few things to share with you. We have our back to school fair. The KCK Schools Foundation for Excellence will host the annual Wyandotte County Back to School Fair on Saturday, August the 5th. And initially, it was promoted to be at Schlegel. Unfortunately, we had to change the location, and it would be at the central office campus here from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. This event, if most of you, I think, have heard about it, it gives students across Wyandotte County, it's just not KCK, but across Wyandotte County, even in other school districts, an opportunity to receive much needed school supplies, backpacks, hygiene kits, and books. We are really excited this year to be partnering with the Parks and Recreation Department. Students will be able to receive essential information about activities that are available to them through Parks and Rec. Sports physicals will be offered to student athletes as well as recommended school immunizations. So we need to keep talking about that and sharing that with the community. That's very important. COVID testing and vaccine and health screenings, such as dental and vision, and it's all you guys at no cost. This year, students will be able to receive free haircuts on a first come, first served basis, and organizers are planning to hand out at least 3,000 backpacks at the event while the supplies last. One of the new programs we are excited to share and promote this year is that we are implementing a new program called the Dual Language Program. Now, this program offers students the opportunity to become biliterate in Spanish and English by learning language through the content. Enrollment has already begun for students entering kindergarten this school year. The program is available for students who are in the attendance zones of Francis Willard, New Stanley, and Silver City. If you want more information, please visit our website at kckschools.org. We're looking forward to our opening of schools convocation. This is the time when we welcome back all of our teachers and staff. This event will be held on Thursday, August the 10th at Legends Field, also known, people refer to it as the Monarch Stadium. We are looking forward to starting the school year with all of our staff. If any of you would like to come and attend, please feel free to email me and we will put you on the list. We will be glad to have you. Also, we're excited to host a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the opening of the Bethel Early Childhood Center. Now, this new center, students were previously located at the North Central Office Early Childhood Center. So they're moving to the new location. You are invited to join us to celebrate this event on Friday, August 11th at 12 p.m. And Bethel is located at 7850 Yecker Avenue. And finally, not last but not least, I always like to promote our KCKPS newsroom. If any of you have a chance to visit our newsroom on our website, there's various stories and highlights of the great things that our students, our teachers are doing in KCKPS. Thank you for this time, for your time this morning. Francisco, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, you covered it, Edwin. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good seeing you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the Turner School District.
Yes, I'm Lauren Aleo. I'm our Director of Public Relations, and I will echo Edwin's question of where did the summer go? Went by fast. So we are today welcoming back our principals and secretaries. We'll have new staff in next week. And then our first day of school is the 14th. So coming up pretty quickly here. Just really exciting time getting back into the school year. And our Turner Aquatic Center renovation is wrapping up. I've been updating on that the last couple months. And we're still looking at opening here in the next week and a half. So that's really exciting. The new upgrades look great. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Next, we have KCK Police Department. Do we have anybody representing them today? I don't think so. So we will move on to, Greg is out with the Neighborhood Resource Center. He didn't have any updates. And then BPU is next.
Hello, everybody. David Melhoff. Wow, this heat's something else. A lot to update on, but I think what I'm really going to focus on is just with this extreme heat. I want people to be cautious out there. There's the I was did a meeting interview the other day about the electric grid, and they were wondering what the extreme heat does to the electric grid, particularly when we have a heavy load. Yesterday, we had an example. We had, with the high temperatures, a heavy load late in the afternoon. It resulted in several wires getting extremely way hot than normal, and it shut power off for about 3,000 people for about 35 minutes. We got it back up pretty quickly. So we're watching our substations really closely right now. So tips that you can do is to save on during this heat time, and also to help conserve a little energy is try to use electricity during the off-peak hours. So the time of day you use electricity is really important. So shifting your energy use to off-peak hours can help a lot. Early morning or late at night can help reduce the load on the grid more than you think and help lower your energy costs. So a prime example, a lot of people get home from work and everybody's running their laundry their washing machine, their dishwasher, everything at one time. It's really good to, put the timer on it and do it when you go to bed. You'll be surprised, that'll really help save on your electric bill. Adjust your thermostat. Some people will go and adjust their thermostat and crank it way up when they're going to work and then nobody's in the house. But then they go home and crank it right down, and the air conditioner's got to work really in overtime, try to get that house cooled down for you again. So kind of just leave it steady. If you want to turn it up a little bit, depending on your comfort level, but don't make really wild adjustments. That just makes a lot of strain on your air conditioner, and also use a lot more energy. Use fans instead, or to supplement air conditioning. In my house, this time of year, I run a dehumidifier that helps cool down the house. You would be surprised that it does help. That dry air is cooler, and so I've got that running in my basement while I've got my air going. Also, shut the shades and drapes. I like having the shades open and all that, but it really heats up your house pretty fast. Use only the lights and appliances you really need. A lot of times when it's heat like this, if you have one, use your microwave oven instead of your conventional range or oven, because that can really heat up the kitchen and heat up the house. Close your doors and vents in rooms that you're not using. So why run air conditioner in a room you're not using? So those are some little tips. I'm gonna send this out. Kayla, I'll send it to you at Livable Neighborhoods, and you can share it with folks. Just some tips how to reduce energy usage and costs during this heat events. And if the weather people are honest, and I believe they are right now, it's not going to get any cooler for a little while. That's all I have. Questions? All right, stay safe, stay cool.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Sheriff's Department. I think I saw you somewhere around here.
All righty. Good morning. So sorry I was late, and sorry, but I'm gonna leave as soon as I'm done. Apologize. Probably the two things I'll update on. One, every single time I think I've ever been in front of this group, I always push hiring. We are hiring. And second, last year we started an event at Parkwood Pool. We did one last year. This year we're going to do two. It's our free day at the pool event. And so we've heard the school district talk about at the end of the summer. And so to cap the summer off for the sheriff's office, August 5th is our second for this year, free day at the pool. First 200 people, kids, parents, adults, whoever, swim for free. My command staff take that cost burden upon ourselves, and we pay for that. We also have free hot dogs. I think we're going to do hot dogs and hamburgers this time, but chips, water, just a fun time. So you can come swim, you come get some lunch. Parks and Rec historically has been out there with us, along with KCKPD. I believe the fire department's going to be there also this year. So come out if you have kids or grandkids or neighbors or whoever, send them our way. And we'd love to have them out. And we'll see if it's going to be as hot as it's been. Then we'll probably be swimming with them. But other than that, I don't think I have a whole lot. I've made the offer before, and I'll make it again. If any of your neighborhood groups would like either me or just somebody from the sheriff's office to come speak at any of your meetings, I'd be more than happy to. I saw your shirt and it reminded me we will be at Night Out Against Crime next month.
Next week.
I'm sorry, next week. Which is next month. Don't mess me up. But if you want me to come out and speak at any of your groups, I'm more than happy to do that. And we could do it on any topic if you just want a general update or something specific. I was asked earlier this week to do just like a situational awareness presentation. So I did that. We could talk about anything you want. So you could pass my contact information along to anybody and just let me know. Otherwise, have a great week. Stay safe. Any questions?
I don't see any online.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talking about Parkwood Park real quick, Crystal shared in the chat too, and we'll provide the other updates from the chat as well in a little bit. Parkwood Park is having a build day. So they're wanting to create, well, not wanting to, they will be creating a playground at Parkwood Park. So we'll send out more information about that as well. But they are seeking volunteers to help with that. And so that's something that is coming up right around the corner as well. So we'll go ahead and continue on with our updates, and then we'll go into the community announcements, which we've got several here in the chat as well. So next up, we have the district attorney's office.
All right, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, thanks for the thumbs up there, Edwin. All right, it's our favorite time of the year. It is our expungement fair, and I'm actually at a radio station right now. District Attorney Dupree just finished up a interview at KMJK Radio talking about it with Ms. Shay Moore, and it's our favorite time because we have the opportunity to help so many people. As you know, a criminal record is one of the biggest obstacles to finding employment, finding housing, and a number of other things. And this is an opportunity to get that record clear, get it wiped out legally, and move on and have a productive life for yourself and your family. And our fair is going to be, again, at the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Technical Center at 6565 State Avenue. And all you have to do is just come in and you'll see it clearly marked. Come on in from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And you can pre-screen by calling, or actually, I want to just make sure you pass this information on. I'm sure none of you guys need expungements, but if you know someone that does, have them call and pre-screen by calling 913-573-2851. That's 913-573-2851. And what that will do, it will allow our staff to go through your record or go through the individual's record and make the process seamless once they actually come on over to the site over at the Technical Center for the Community College. So we definitely want to let as many people know about that as possible. This is our 5th annual fair. The first fair we helped over 200 people, and in the 3 subsequent fairs, I think our numbers are close to 400 people that we've helped get expungements. And also the flyer, if you need information, it's on our Facebook page. And it's also, I believe, Ashley Hand is putting something out on UG. Their flyers around town. We've been doing publicity around town and in the metro with different radio stations and whatnot. But it is on our Facebook page. So just Wyandotte County District Attorney's Office Facebook page. It's there. And as a matter of fact, I just placed a new one up so you can see the information, and just let as many people know as you can that need something like this, because that's often the problem. Someone will have something that they would like to get expunged, and it could have been expunged years ago. And I'm talking, just to take you back a little bit, we had one gentleman, he came in and he got a record cleared from 1979. And all of this time, he couldn't get employment, he couldn't get the housing, there were so many other things he couldn't do, but he came and got that, and he has peace of mind now. So, and we just want to help, again, as many folks as we can. We have the money through various grants or donations rather, to pay for the process. So it's not going to cost you anything. Just come on out and take advantage of it. Again, it's our expungement fair at 6565 State Avenue at the Tech Center for the Kansas City, Kansas Community College from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be August 8th and August 9th. That's August 8th and August 9th. I'll say it one more time, August 8th and August 9th. So please pass the information on to whomever you feel needs it. And we certainly look forward to helping you and just doing our part to help this community just have as many productive and legal members as we possibly can. So that's all I have. Any questions I'll take as well.
All right, I don't see any questions right now. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next up we have KCK Fire Department.
Hi, this is Chief Troppelman with the Fire Department. I just got a couple of brief announcements. I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. I have to jump on. I had a email from Commissioner Bynum concerning fire hydrants in her district. They're wanting to, I guess people want to know if we are checking those. Yes, the fire department does annual inspections and flows them, each one, each year. And we keep track of those. Sometimes we have to slow down if we break mains, if we damage the, discover the damaged hydrants, we get way ahead of BPU's capability to go in and fix those. So yes, they do get inspected. I will respond to Commissioner Bynum's email on the specific area for that. The other thing related to hydrants is I do get quite a few calls each month, citizens concerned about a hydrant that may be laying on its side or flowing water leaking. The fire department does not maintain them. That is BPU. And all I do is log on to BPU's webpage and report it to them, and anybody can do that. I will send out a link of for that in the Friday mailer that they can include in on that. One other thing, we're seeing a lot of open burning, illegal burning going on right now. We've had over 107 calls since the last open burning period ended on April 30th. So if you have neighbors that are doing that, call 911, report it. We'll make sure it gets put out. We'll make sure they receive a summons if they need to make sure they don't continue doing that. The air quality is pretty poor right now. I believe we have some ozone alert days going on, so make sure we're not doing any open burning during this time. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Tell him thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Okay, next we have Department of Planning and Urban Design. Are there any updates? I see Alyssa. All right.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Alyssa Marcy, Long Range Planner. So we are working really hard on our citywide comprehensive plan process. We're in the midst of a lot of outreach over the summer. So we have a lot of events coming up. One that's most notable is we have a Community Prosperity Summit on August 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Memorial Hall. So that's going to be a presentation on our draft economic development strategies. We'll also be talking about the role of Main Street program and economic development, as well as community benefits agreement and some other tools that the community can use for economic development. So that's on the 14th. We also have an event on the 15th. We're tabling at a lot of events, including La Placida, Third Friday Art Walk. So I really encourage you to check out our website. That's wykckk.org/plan-KCK. I can drop that in the chat and you can see everything that's coming up. We have a couple of small business surveys that we're hoping for people to pass around in English and Spanish, as well as a more general visioning survey. We also have a young artist competition that we're really excited about. And that's for artists under the age of 21 and under. So we're looking for them to really use different mediums to create, what their vision of the future would be for KCK. So that will close in September, I believe, but we're hoping to announce that in October when we finish up our engagement. So we have a lot going on, but if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. We are still looking at different opportunities to table or come to existing events so we can get as many people engaged as possible.
All right, thanks, Alyssa. Any questions? Okay, Health Department. We had a presentation from the Health Department, but if anybody else from the Health Department has something, all right. Come on up to my computer microphone.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer. I'm the social worker at the Public Health Department. And I want to also talk a little bit about back to school and the importance of immunizations. We, of course, the health department, we have immunizations every day, but we want to make sure that students get their immunizations before they go to school so it does not interrupt their learning. This is very important because the school nurses are very on top of if you're behind and kids have to be taken out of school, brought provider to get their immunization. So it's really, really important that you can come to the health department. We have evening hours on Thursdays, so parents can bring their children and after work and not have to interrupt work. Turner is having a back to school event also on August 1st at the high school. I think it's an all day event. So I have flyers, but unfortunately they had the Schlegel location. So now it's at the district office. So please encourage families to get their kids up to date on their immunizations. Another program I want to talk about is, I don't know if you guys have been hearing a lot of the news about fentanyl overdoses. The health department, we have Narcan. If you need Narcan, walk into the health department, myself, and there's about 5 other persons in the health department that are trained on Narcan about how to dispense Narcan. It doesn't have to be just for the person that is using substances. It can be there for. So if you are concerned about a family member, a friend, I have a 21-year-old who goes to concerts in the community and he carries Narcan because he wants to be there if somebody is experiencing an overdose. So please, please, please utilize this service. You don't have to make an appointment. You can just walk into the health department and ask to receive the Narcan, and we'd be happy to educate you about how to use it. Another program in the community I want to talk about, and I do have flyers for this, is called Becoming a Mom. Okay, this is available to every single pregnant woman in the county. There's no income guidelines. It doesn't matter if you have health insurance, no health insurance, Medicaid, whatever. It is a March of Dimes evidence-based program that teaches people about pregnancy, infant care, feeding, nutrition, and it is completely free. We have about 2,300 deliveries every year in Wyandotte County, and our goal is that every single woman who is pregnant learns about this program and is given the opportunity to participate in this program. We have stuff about
Sorry.
We have, WIC now has huge fresh fruit and vegetable packages that are available to families in the community. So please call the health department. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will share I'm getting notice that my internet connection is now unstable. So I think the online version is cursed today or something, but we will get all of this information out in minutes and in our e-newsletter as much as we have there. We will have a recording of our meeting today as well to send out. The last thing here, or not the last thing, but the last bullet point on the updates is livable neighborhoods, and then we'll go into community announcements, and I'll read the ones that are in the chat and we can open it up to anyone else as well. So for livable neighborhoods, we are looking, the Livable Neighborhoods Task Force filling those roles. You don't need any specific qualifications. We just need someone that is interested in the work, who's willing to show up and provide your input. If you have questions about that, you can talk to myself, but you could probably also talk to Carol Newton. She's our executive committee president, and she would provide some information about that, or any of the members of our executive committee, Donnie Thomas, Chandra Ward, Denise Davis, Kendall McReynolds, could all provide insight into what it means to serve on that committee. I also have updates here about, let's see, that we have lots of community events going on. We have a feedback session this Saturday here at the Neighborhood Resource Center regarding Boston Daniels Park. So we have some flyers in the room here, and we'll make sure to send them out as well about that event and what is proposed for that park and what kind of community feedback they're looking for. Let's see here. And oh yes, in my email that I sent out last night, that I know some of it didn't come through all the way. I've been having technical problems apparently. And I put the wrong date for the meeting, but if you or your organization would be interested in sponsoring like coffee or breakfast type items for this meeting for folks in person, feel free to get with me and we can work that out. We also are looking for sponsorships for our strategic planning, our Livable Neighborhoods Task Force strategic planning session. Those would just be like afternoon refreshments, coffee, tea, water, some snacks, things like that. So let us know if you or your organization is interested in contributing in that way at all. So that's all I have for Livable Neighborhoods right now. I'm sure there will be more eventually, but I wanted to go back to the community announcements that were in the chat. And again, we'll send all of this out. So I've got to scroll here real quick. Got a lot. Okay. There we go. Okay, so Leslie had to hop off, but Leslie Scott wanted to promote that KC Digital Drive is still looking for community partners to help spread the word about the Affordable Connectivity Program. It's a federal program that provides $30 per month discount on internet services. Please contact Leslie at lscott@kcdigitaldrive.org. Brian Perez, he wanted to thank everyone who showed up to share kind words and support for his sister. She is doing well now and grateful for the well wishes. Jennifer Mills from West Heights neighborhood. Judge Tony Martinez is their guest speaker at the West Heights neighborhood meeting on August 9th. He'll be discussing the fentanyl epidemic in the area, and they'll be meeting at 7 p.m. at the St. Paul's Episcopal Church at 18th and Washington Boulevard, and wanted to invite other neighborhoods to attend since it's such a important topic. Leslie Scott is posting, she also posted for Reuseful. They're looking for more Kansas City, Kansas nonprofit organizations, schools, and churches that could use more in-kind donations like Still Good clothing, books, toys, bikes, furniture, and other household items to participate in the first Undumpster Day in KCK on Saturday, September 23rd. That's from 8 a.m. to noon, and it's free. Email rachel@reuseful.org for more information. So that's pairing people with Still Good stuff, nonprofits who can put that, that to good use. Denise from K-State Research and Extension, they have a new kitchen restore program kickoff event on August 1st at Kansas City, Kansas Community College Back to School Fair. Donations of new or gently used kitchen items are needed to create, excuse me, basic kitchen kits for those with minimal or no resources for cooking. There's a flyer to follow or contact Wyandotte County Extension for more information. They're also hosting a board leadership series beginning on August 24th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Livable Neighborhoods members, so any of our neighborhood leaders can attend for free. Typically, it would be $20 for other community members with the coupon code LN Leaders 2023. And again, we'll send out this information and we have a flyer to go with that as well. Let's see. Parkwood Park is seeking volunteers. A Loving Space Foundation is planning a back to school cleanup bash. If anyone has connections for supply sponsorships or donors, we would greatly appreciate it. We also have several community cleanups throughout the year to go. Throughout the year, please go to our website to RSVP and help clean the community. And their website is alovingSpaceFoundation.com. There's also a reminder to vote. Early voting for the primaries has started. Election day is August 1st. So that's coming up right around the corner. And then let's see, Matt May, he's with our emergency management department, and he wanted to give an update about public assistance programs from the July 14th storm. So Matt, I'll go ahead and switch the mic on over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having a couple of minutes. Just wanted to let people know that the event that took place on the 14th of this month, the high wind severe storm event, left us with enough damage that we're attempting to make application for some reimbursement through the public assistance program through FEMA. I wanted to let everybody know where we stand with that, which is that we made our threshold. There's a dollar amount that we have to hit based on per capita, and we made that threshold easily. The problem is there's also a threshold the state has to make as a whole, and they're struggling to do that. They're working with FEMA to try and expand the number of days so that they can include storms that happen in other parts of the state to make sure we make that threshold. They're still working on that, to my knowledge. We don't have a final dollar amount as far as how many different counties are participating. So as soon as I hear that, we will proceed forward if we can with that effort to try and get some reimbursement for some of the expenses for the county on picking up debris, particularly vegetative debris, trees, right, that came down, and who help with BPU's expenses in reconnecting a whole bunch of power. So that I just wanted to share that with the folks so that they could bring that back to their groups. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Questions? It's all yours.
All right. Thank you. And I think our last announcement in the chat, just a second here, was that Turner USD 202 Back to School Bash is August 1st from 4 to 6:30, and only for families with students enrolled in Turner USD 202 for 2023 and 2024. So now I'll go ahead and open it up for any other announcements that we have in the room. If we have some people online that have any other announcements, just let us know and bear with us while we get the mics adjusted. But first, we'll open it up to folks here in the room. Yeah.
I want to remind everybody about Night Out Against Crime, August the 1st. Go vote and then come to Night Out Against Crime. We're at the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Athletic Building. We'll be there from 5 to 8:30. So we want everybody to bring their family, their friends, their enemies, anybody else that wants to come and visit with law enforcement and make the connection between the citizens and yourself and your neighborhood groups.
Thank you. If that cut out at all, I'm not sure how well the audio transferred. There's Night Out Against Crime on August 1st. What was the time again, Paul?
5 to 8:30.
5 to 8:30. I should know. I'll be there. Bring all your family, friends. He said enemies too, if you want to bring them. So go vote and then come to Night Out Against Crime. And then if you're a part of Turner, head on to the Turner's Back to School Fair. Lots of stuff going on August 1st. Who else had, we have a couple here. Will you come up and talk close to my computer microphone, or I can pass it around.
I usually don't have too much
Yeah.
speaking out.
Sure.
Good morning, everyone. Joanne Woody. I'm the Executive Director for the Greater Kansas City Northwest Missouri Chapter of the Red Cross. And I just wanted to share a resource, a tool for communities, and that's the Red Cross First Aid app. It's a free download for Apple and Android devices. It's recently been updated. It's got some really great features. Actually, when you open the app, it's got a list about this long of different types of emergencies, different types of medical situations you might encounter. And you click on each one of those and it gives you some really good tips on how to respond or how to care for someone experiencing those. At the very bottom on any of the screens, there is a button that will automatically dial 911 from your phone. There is also, like if you go into, let's say, there's actually a section on opioid overdose, there's a section on cardiac arrest and things like that. But when you go into those, it will also have a button that will be a hospital finder. So that if the recommended action, if you need to need to find the nearest hospital to try to get someone there, then it will actually help guide you to the nearest hospital. So a lot of great stuff, especially with the heat that we're dealing with for the next few days. And we're not anywhere near done with summer yet. So there's actually a really good section and some good tips for dealing with heat-related illnesses and what you should do to protect yourself. There's also kind of an accompanying app. It's the Pet First Aid app. Has a lot of the same tools and resources. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with the group, and I'm happy to be a part of the group. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Connie Brown Collins, and I'm the founder and director of Voter Rights Network of Wyandotte County. You may not have heard of us, but we have been around for about 3 years now. We were the organization that led the fight here in Wyandotte County for redistricting. Anybody heard that term? We fought very hard. Basically, we work at the state level on legislation that impacts Wyandotte County. Voting rights, human rights, public schools, all of those different types of issues that are pertinent to Wyandotte County members and voters. And I want to tell you about an event that we have coming up on August 26th. We work with our state legislators, and it's called a Wyandotte County Legislative Lunch and Learn. We have had one earlier this year, and this is our second one this year. What we do in these is we have our Wyandotte County delegation as panelists. We usually have a moderator to ask questions. This one is titled, Win Some, Lose Some, How Do We Recoup Some? And this is talking about legislation that was passed, successes, legislation that failed, that we wanted passed, and where do we go from here? So if anyone is interested in coming, there's those little codes on the front where you can put your cell phone on there and you can register. We'd love to have you attend. I'll be glad to pass these out if you like. This is going to be held at the KCKCC Technical Education Center, 6565 State. Yeah, lots of things held there. And so again, it's in the morning from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll probably have boxed lunches for everybody that's interested. And love to have your participation. So we have legislators from both of our parties that will be attending. So it does look like it will be an interesting time. So again, love to see you there. Love to see you. We do have regular meetings and we'd love to see you at our meetings. They are on Zoom at this point. And every other week, we work on legislation, advocating for or against legislation at the state level. So if anyone is interested, you know, I have a sign-in sheet, you can sign it, and I'll put you on our email list. We send out a lot of information. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks. Donnie, did I see your hand up earlier?
Yeah.
You wanna, here, we'll bring the computer towards you.
Oh, my name is Donnie Thomas, and I just wanted to let everybody be aware that at our next neighborhood meeting at Kensington, we will have a speaker and trainer on Narcan. And I've taken the training on it, and it's very interesting. It seemed like that drug has been increasing a whole lot in the community. So there's a lot of information to it that would be very helpful to you or someone you might know that have kids, because a lot of innocent people are getting caught up in this. And you're more than welcome to come to my meeting if you've never made any of the other meetings. It'll be August the 22nd from 6 to 7 at Grace Lutheran Church. And that's at 3333 Wood Avenue, KCK. Also, we just got through having our annual bingo ice cream social. And we had a lot of fun with our ice cream games and gifts. And so that was something you would have enjoyed if you'd been able to make it. But that was last week. No,
this
week.
Tuesday.
Yeah, that was just this Tuesday. But anyway, my main thing I wanted to mention was the Narcan meeting that we will be having next month. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Can do that. Sorry.
What time was
6 o'clock.
And what was
Thank
the
you.
date?
Tuesday, August the 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
And you can bring friends with you if it's someone you know
Did you say
that might
7?
need to know.
Tuesday, August 2nd.
22nd.
August 20,
August the 22nd.
okay, August 22nd.
Tuesday, August the 22nd. At 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Address again?
3333 Wood. It's the Grace Lutheran Church right there on 33rd and Wood.
Or Mason United Methodist.
Yes, our Mason United Methodist.
Yes.
There'll be a sign out front. Neighborhood meeting. So just come to the back and come on
Pretty
in.
much everyone knows the church.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else in here with an announcement? Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Pat Devine. I'm in AmeriCorps Vista, working at Crosslines, and I just wanted to pass on a quick message that Crosslines is presenting information via CHIP, Community Health Improvement Plan, on safe and affordable housing. And we have slides and conversation, and we will come to you, your neighborhood group. I'm just going to give you my email, and then you can take it from there. Typical name Patrick, Patrick, at cross, CROSS, -lines.org. And so if your neighborhood group is interested in learning more about it, we want to get your feedback on things that are being presented or discussed, and appreciate your input. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maida?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to you this morning. My name is Nata Townsend, and I am the Heritage Coordinator, Projects Coordinator for Groundwork. And I'm excited to announce that we are having a really big event also August 26th. So after your morning event, you can come to ours. This is a tribute to Charlie Yardbird Parker, who was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. He's our own native son. And so we want to have, or at least to begin, maybe an annual recognition of this musical genius. And so in that case, we are having a family community event that inside the boxing club, the 17th parallel, there'll be live music. There's some of the best jazz musicians in Kansas available to us. So they'll be there for the grown-ups inside. Outside, big old fun place for the kids. Not just one bounce house, 2 bounce houses, and a lot of stuff for the children to do. So I have flyers here for that. It is August 26th, 11 to 4 at the Boxing Club and Fitness Youth, 17th and Parallel. And we just invite you to come out and have a really good time. Also a kickoff for the Northeast KCK Heritage Trail. We're going to start actually digging and making inroads and making a tangible, something that you can see happening along the Heritage Trail. And it's going to be a long process, but this is our kickoff, and we're really excited about that. So we invite you all to come out and have a good time that day. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in this room with an announcement? Okay, and any other online announcements? All right, so if we'll get any flyers sent out, if you want us to share any flyers, please send them to us. It's best to send them, you can send them to myself or Mina, but it's best to send them to Livable Neighborhoods at wykck.org, and I'll put it in the chat too. We will go ahead and close out this meeting, but if you have time to stick around and provide some input to Randy on the historic preservation plan, we will start that conversation here in just a minute or 30 seconds or so.
Is Nicholas Calderas in the
let's see.
There he is.
Oh, perfect. All right, we will get started in about 1 minute for our next meeting here. One minute. I'm gonna have to kick people out. I said I'm gonna have to make them quiet.
Well, I'd rather them stay.
Yeah, not kick them out.
We need the. All right, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. We're going to get started on the historic preservation plan that we're doing. We're really looking forward to getting your feedback. In the chat right now is our consultant, the Lakota group, Nicholas. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. So if I could get y'all's attention, I'd really appreciate it. So Nicholas, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Sure, Randy.
Let me switch the speaker.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, you're moving speakers right now.
Okay, all right. So thanks, Randy. My last name is Kalogeresis, just in case you wanted to know. And I'm with the Lakota Group. We're a planning and urban design firm based in Chicago, Illinois, and we've been engaged by the UNIGOV to prepare a historic preservation plan. So it's good to me be with all of you virtually.
Yeah, so
Where'd Nina go? I don't know how she did this.
okay, am I still echoing?
Yep. How did she do this? Yeah, that's what she did. Okay.
Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we're here to get some of your feedback. One of the most important questions we're asking is what kind of historic places are important to you guys, or places that aren't historic yet? What should we be looking to preserve? Where should our focus be? You've been residents here far longer than I have. I only moved here in September. Nicholas is from out of town. So we're really relying on your feedback in this part of the process.
Is that an open question?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I mean, I think that
I think
tower beside the library, that the one building burned and got demolished, and then the tower part is, I think, owned now by someone who hopes to restore it.
Yes.
We had heard for a number of years that the plan was to remove that outer skin from like the 70s or whenever that was and restore it to its original look. And I didn't know what that meant. But the other day, now that the burned building is gone, the other day, walking into a meeting at the library, I glanced over and had a look at what's actually under that on the west facing side. And I was like, wow, that's really pretty. And so I would be very interested in that specific building, for example, bringing that back to its former.
Yes, ma'am. So are we. That building, we're actually in the process of that. The State Historic Preservation Office is reviewing our downtown historic district nomination. Finally, they're a bit behind. And that building is one of those that we're saying should be historic. And we would love to expose that 1920s brickwork that's underneath it.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah.
So what does it mean when you do a historic preservation? Because I live at 32nd and Parallel, and one of my neighbors who lives on 33rd Terrace, now mind you, at 33rd and Parallel, there is a historic landmark. So when our friend decided to change her windows there at 33rd Terrace, I'm not sure, she had to get permission.
She had to go to the.
You have to have a permit to change the window.
She had to go.
They had to receive a historic review.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And get permission.
And she couldn't, and
She
she
gave
had
up on
certain
new
kind of,
windows
yeah, she
because
really
she
did.
said, forget it.
Yeah.
Yes, there are several levels of historic designation. There's the local, state, and the federal historic registers. According to our local ordinance, any buildings listed on the local register has a 200-foot environs around it, and any building in that environs receives the same level of historic review as the landmark itself. The review and the environs are in place to try to protect the historic integrity of those buildings so that future generations can enjoy them as well. I don't know which building it is offhand that you're
It's the
referring
old,
to.
well, it's currently the Seventh-day Adventist, but it's the old Methodist college. that was.
St. Matthias?
No, it's
No.
very, very pretty. It's on the south
The
side.
tall,
not the big
Yeah.
tall.
yes.
There was a monastery in there for a while too, before the,
Yeah. So
Seventh-day Adventists. Now, there's another one that is a little farther away. He's on the 3100 block of Parallel, which is, just kind of down the street. He was working on his house, thought he had all the permits he needed, rehabbing this house to sell. And he found out that he was sitting in a historic district, and he said it runs clear up to the river.
a historic district running up to the river.
That's what he's impression.
The only districts I know that we have to go to the river is the Quindaro town site areas.
That's it, I'll bet you.
Okay.
Because that's about a mile away.
So it's likely that that's where he was. Without access to my maps, I can't really give you a precise idea.
Well, it's about a block away from the other, or maybe two blocks from the other.
Those are at parallel, so that's interesting, that Sandero town site would come all the way south.
That's what I think, it's about a
Parallel. I
mile,
think the
mile and a
Parkwood
half.
district gets close to parallel.
Parkwood.
It could be that one as well.
That's at
Parkwood's a 10th though.
Yeah.
My problem is that it impedes people from improving their property.
The way that we offset that is, at least on the state and the federal registers, there are tax credits available to property owners for that repair. So yes, it takes a little bit longer to do it, but you can get 45, 50% off the cost of rehabilitating a historic home. We unfortunately don't have any resources like that for locally listed buildings, and buildings in the environs do not qualify for those resources. So since I started here in September, we've been looking for ways that we can start to bring more carrots to the historic designation pool rather than just sticks. The tax credit process can be tedious, but it is a very powerful tool. Listing on the state and national registers also opens up a lot of grant opportunities for business owners. There's millions of dollars out there that go unclaimed every year for these historic homes. But my job is to help you guys find that money and repair those buildings, because I want to see them stick around too.
Hey, Randy, I was going to ask if you provided an overview of what a historic preservation plan is about. What's going to be in a preservation plan? I can go over it if you'd like, but.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
And is any of it going to be including Quindaro and?
Yes, we will be talking about the town site in our plan. We recognize how important it is, and we'll definitely be looking more into it.
And I understand the museum in that area, the Quindaro Museum, is in quite a bit of disrepair and needs renovating. And
The Vernon School?
It's probably connected to the Vernon School. I don't know if it's.
There's two.
Yeah, there are two.
Well, I know the Vernon School is being heard on August 5th. We're listing on the National Register of Historic Places so that they can get historic tax credits to make those repairs. I'll be speaking on their behalf at that meeting. But a lot of resources are needed up there. We're trying to find ways to get it to them through preservation.
Is this strictly structures, or do you include history?
It is about history. We look at historic structures, sites, buildings, objects. The clock at the bus station on Minnesota and 7th, that's on the local register for its history to Kansas City. So I think Nick will be able to give us a pretty good overview of the plan and where we are right now. His firm, is the one that's been helping us out with it.
And then there's a couple of questions in the chat after that we can go to.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's bringing up some really great stuff to think about. Just to give you an overview, just as the county, the UGov is going through a comprehensive planning process. Usually in a comprehensive planning process, we want to find out what we want to change for the better, right? More housing, better transportation, more parks, so you look at what should change. A preservation plan kind of does the opposite. What are things that we don't want to change? What are important to us in terms of our history, in terms of places that have great visual interest, architectural interest, cultural meanings to us. So a preservation plan looks at how do we maintain that, and how do we also use those assets to help revitalize our neighborhoods, how to revitalize our downtown, our commercial areas. So preservation plays a very important part to our overall look of our neighborhoods and places, but also in terms of the economic aspects as well. So a lot of things that you've been mentioning are great. I think are part of our process is, as Randy's already kind of alluded to, is we want to find out what's important to you as people who live in the community to preserve and maintain going forward. So that's what we want to find out. And we've already been on site a couple of times, so we've had a chance to drive around quite a lot to see everything. So at least we have a little bit of familiarity with what you're mentioning. So anyway, that's what a preservation plan. And in there was a question in the chat, and I'll just read it off. Is how can we find out if a property we are purchasing is historic? If it needs repair, do we get the original blueprint to preserve it back to its original state? So, Randy, I might throw that back out to you.
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. I'd be more than happy to. So we have a number of resources to identify our historic properties in the county. If you search WYCO Historic Preservation, you'll come to the webpage that we've just redone. It's all on there. You're also more than welcome to call or email me at any time, and I will double check your property, see what kind of reviews you might have to expect to get. As for needing the original blueprints, no, you do not need those kinds of documents. It's very rare that the blueprints for a home that's 100 years old still remain. Well, we use a system based on the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment and use of historic buildings to kind of decide what kind of work should be allowed. The biggest answer to any question in preservation is it depends. Well, if something's wrong with your windows, how do you replace them? Well, it depends. What kind of windows do you have? What kind of condition they're in? Everything is a case-by-case basis that my office reviews. And depending on what register you're listed on is what level of review you get. There are 3 kinds of review that exist. There's the local review, which we say for the exteriors of all buildings on any register. The state law review, which is required by Kansas law and required for any permit pulled for any historic building. And then there's the federal section 106 review, which only matters if you're receiving federal money to do that. So that's a very rare review for what you guys will probably experience. We recently got permission to do the state law review ourselves to make the process faster, try to save you guys some time. And with building, time is money. But there's a lot that goes through this process, which is why I'm here to help answer questions and assist you guys however I can.
There were a couple of sites mentioned, and I don't know if you already have them on your radar.
The Franklin Elementary Center, that building unfortunately recently caught fire. I've been working with the building owners. I'm hoping that they find the money soon to repair it before water could deal more damage.
And then the other one was silver mines in Argentina.
I have not heard of silver mines in Argentina. I would like to hear
It was
more.
not the Franklin Center. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Melissa Orpeza. It was not the Franklin Center that went through the flood. It's the actual Armadale Community Center down on 7th and Pyle. That went through the 1951 flood, and at one point was a swimming pool. It's gone through several things through history. It was not the Franklin Center.
I apologize.
Okay, so it's at 7th and Pyle. It's right there on the corner. Thank you.
7th and Pyle?
Yes, 7th and Pyle, Pyle, right across from the park.
And do you know the approximate address of those silver mines?
It is. No, I can get it though, and I can email. Is that your email in the?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll email you that information. That I don't have as much.
Dr. Melissa, isn't it right
Yes.
where the Walmart neighborhood market sits and this police substation?
Is that it? I was thinking it might have been more over by the Eagle's Nest in
the
that
reason-
area.
Well, you might be right. The reason why I say that is because those parcels were EPA remediated in order to build there.
Okay.
But you might be right.
Well, I hope that remediation was more the plants, the smelting plants
Got it.
that were there.
Right, so maybe it's two different locations.
Thank you.
I would assume you've also had discussions with the Wyandotte County Historical.
I've been trying to get a hold of them to have them a meeting with, but I am familiar with the organization. Thank you.
Just having that information because a whole village came from Mexico and resettled here to make this community in Argentine. So that's just one of the things I wanted to make sure was on the list and being looked at. Thank you.
Thank you for your suggestions. It's you guys pointing out sites like this that make my job a lot easier. We have a lot of history in our county that I'm still learning. I've not been here for terribly long. So I see a question. Yes?
I'm sorry. Out at the museum, the museum director resigned and went to another state for a different job. Right behind her, their like 30-year employee retired.
Yes.
So they are literally down to one employee running the entire building.
Wow.
So if you're not hearing from him, that's why.
Yes,
He's a great guy.
I've reached out to him several times to try to offer what little help I can.
Okay.
We've got a lot going on, so I don't have enough bandwidth to go out and process collections with him.
Right. But he may, like if there are questions that the community is bringing forward, he definitely can be helpful in pinpointing like the silver mines.
Okay.
You know, like they have that stuff. So.
I'll have to reach out. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the direction. Tamara asks if you contact me if you're interested in preserving the old Quindaro. I can never get the pronunciation correct.
We say Quindaro.
Thank you. Quindaro Museum. That is a difficult question to answer. I do like knowing who wants to preserve what, but it's really up to whoever owns the building for its preservation. I can provide them with access to resources. I can provide them with insight and advice. I review the permits that they have to pull. I cannot force somebody to preserve their building. Take Sour Castle as an example. It took a long time for somebody to come in and preserve it because we don't have the mechanisms to force that as much as we'd like to. We can ask them, but we can't force them.
Any other places, buildings that are important? Someone did ask the question, who does own the Quindaro Museum? So, but you don't. I'm not sure.
I don't know if that is information that I can provide in a public, well, provide at all. Who owns buildings? I don't know if that would be unethical of me or not.
I wonder if there's a.
Wouldn't that be on the tax rolls?
I am just my brain. There is a young lady who is a family member of the original family in the house where the one museum is. And they have been actively doing fundraising. It just escapes me. I can probably do some like Facebook searching because they held an event where the proceeds were going to help the museum. Anyway, I'll just have to do some poking around on Facebook, and there's other people who know who I'm talking about. I have just forgotten her name. She's very passionate because this is part of her family history.
Yes, recently I scanned an old, a book I found that was commissioned by the Kansas City, Kansas in '88 called The Afro-American Community, and I put that up on our website. And it has so much wonderful history about Quindaro and the Northeast. So if you guys ever want a light read, it's like 280 pages. I highly recommend checking it out. But no, I don't think I can say who owns what.
Probably do some digging.
Information is always out there.
If it's on the tax rolls, who owns something, that should be public information.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, well, in that case, so it's public information. I am allowed to talk about public information. The ownership of the Quindaro town site area is slightly contested. The UG owns some parts of it. First AME owns some parts of it. Western University owns some, and I think AME owns Western University. And I think there's a few other people who own bits and pieces. Can I put the link in the chat? Just like a historic preservation, or I can just look it up real quick.
In terms of priorities, how high is Quindaro Heights on the priority list versus downtown or neighborhoods? In terms of preservation, what would be a high priority for preservation?
Well, I think neighborhoods get tricky because you have to have kind of some buy-in from the neighbors in order to get that on there. That takes a little bit more work, in my opinion, based on what I've kind of seen from that. I think Quindaro is pretty high up there. I think it's been neglected not neglected, but just overlooked for so long. And we have a lot of people interested in that. And I think that's really needs to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a shortcut to that book I mentioned. And then I'm going to put a link to the historic preservation page as well in the chat. The reason we really want to highlight areas like downtown and Quindaro is because there is a great opportunity for economic revitalization and development through historic preservation in those areas. If we get this historic district downtown, like I am currently working on, that puts 70 more buildings on the National Register. That's 70 businesses that can use historic tax credits to make it cheaper to repair their structures, to get things up and running, to make vacant buildings usable, to meet the needs of business owners so we can start to get people downtown. It helps to get housing on the second, third floors of these buildings. It helps to fix homes. There's a lot of power that comes with these historic tax credits. So we just got to get them to as many people as possible and then help them to use them. And with the ruins, we're looking at heritage tourism, which is quickly becoming a huge sector of many economies. I mean, if you consider the World Cup coming in 26, if we have the ruins as a visitor site and we get that done right, so it's preserved for the future, people are going to come in from overseas. That's going to be where they want to go. They're going to want to see those unique aspects of our history, and those ruins and the history they tell is unique even in American history, not just world history.
Okay, yeah.
I have a question that's kind of not a question, but kind of is a question.
I'd be happy to hear it.
How does like historic preservation kind of like intersect with like schools like Wyandotte and Sumner, like even like the community college preserving some parts of the historic church? So I'm like, are they able to kind of like leverage like these state federal funds? For
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
For the repairs of buildings. Schools as nonprofits actually get slightly more. So there's two different levels of tax credits. There's the state ones, which are 25% for anybody, projects that cost at least $5,000, 30% for nonprofits. And the federal government gives a 20% tax rebate for all income producing properties. But if your project is big enough, you can syndicate with a bank and you can do all these things and make it work. I'm not an accountant. I don't understand the process. I just know it can be done. And it is very commonly done. But yeah, schools definitely can access that money because it does cost a little bit more to repair historic buildings and to do it right. But we typically find that with the tax credits, it ends up being cheaper than normal renovations.
I think Wyandotte and Sumner School are fantastic buildings. They're just incredible schools. And I think Sumner in particular is a great asset to have to build that revitalize that neighborhood around it. It's just really a fantastic building. And I think those are definitely long-term preservation assets for you. Extraordinary pieces of architecture too. So yeah.
My jaw dropped when I saw Wyandotte High School for the first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about our Memorial Hall?
Oh, Memorial Hall is already listed.
Okay. Because I would think Wyandotte is listed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, and Sumner might be listed.
We have 52 listings, which include nearly 200 or 300 buildings in Wyandotte County right now that qualify for historic tax credits.
Sarah Castle, one of those.
Yes, it is. And they are using historic tax credits for the rehabilitation
And
of
they
that.
finally got somebody that's starting to work with that.
Yes, sir.
Do you have the listings like on the historic preservation?
Yes, we do. I
And
will
then is
show
there
you.
like a section to recommend like places that they feel like are missing from?
Well, you can just shoot me an email and then I will
What
give
is
you.
your email?
Oh,
thank you.
Are there other school buildings that are worthy of preservation? Just want to throw that out there.
I know Whittier School was added recently. That's 290 South 10th Street. I'm going to share the screen so I can show you guys the website. So this is the historic preservation website. So here's where we have information about buying in a historic district, the list of historic districts and landmarks. So if we come here, so there's a PDF and a spreadsheet, which I update regularly, and you can just scroll through and see, and it tells you where it's listed. So if it's local, state, federal, and then there is, I can't see, is what? Banneker Elementary.
Like, I don't know how old this
Old
historic.
versus historic.
Well,
We're getting into sensitive area.
It was a legit question, like how old is the historic and like how culturally relevant? I'm like,
so
everybody went to Banneker.
it's an argument. Every time you make a listing on the historic register, you make an argument for its importance to history. This is dot maps. If you can give me the address.
Banneker?
Third. That's not even third.
Third and parallel.
My first house was built in 1890 something
Wow.
on 69th Street. It
But
was
there
the
was lead
farmhouse
paint in there.
for the farmer that owned that whole area was cornfield.
It is 2026 North 4th Street.
It was a typical farmhouse. The kitchen was the
26.
biggest room in the house.
Yeah, for sure.
I just keep thinking of places. Okay, so the YMCA that's on Parallel.
The
there's that
YMCA
big,
is
like,
listed.
farm house next to it.
Yeah.
I always drive by that and I'm like, that's gonna be an old house.
It is.
So there are 4 different, it looks like Banneker is not listed. Northeast Junior High School is just to the south of it. There's a series of criteria that have to be met. Sometimes some SHPOs ask for it to be 50 years old, at least. That can be, you can play with that. And there's 4 criteria. It has to be associated with important events to American history, important people. It has to have unique architecture or an important architectural style, or it has to have the possibility of providing archaeological data. So if you can argue well enough that it does one of those 4 things, it can be listed.
That sounds very academic.
It is very academic. The National Register is a difficult form to fill out. It's supposed to be able to be done by anybody, but it really requires, it requires a level of expertise, just the architectural description alone.
I have to go. I just realized it's 11. What the former White Church Elementary School building on 85th Street is in an extremely historic Native American area.
Okay.
And probably is maybe is on the register. White Church beside it, I think is definitely on the registry because they have a ton of history like in their fellowship hall. And the elementary school just closed in the.
It is on the local and state registers.
Okay.
Okay, the church is the elementary?
That's the church.
It seems that that's the
Delaware
only
Indian
one.
Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And then the school building is right beside that.
Okay.
So I don't know about the actual school building.
2200 North 85th.
I have to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
I sent you another note.
I saw that. I will, I'll follow up. Thank you. Bye.
Did I say 85th or 88th?
Oh. That's not me.
Okay.
Oh, it's all, and maybe that whole like radius.
Yeah, it's a, so you can see there's that square, that's the parcel itself. And that thinner circle around it is the environs. So the buildings in those environs are reviewed, but they don't get any benefits. So those environs are something we're going to be looking at in the preservation plan to make sure that those are the best way to do what we're trying to do there, and to ensure they're not causing unnecessary hardship on our residents.
So one of the other things I just wanted to bring up is, and I don't know if this goes with the historical planning. I know it's definitely on the UG side of it, but I want to make sure that there's some conversations that talk about the infrastructure, especially when we talk about the neighborhoods, that we have, the things that have been updated, the sidewalks, the things back then, we didn't have as many of those, but we have a lot of areas missing that. And also the preservation of our, some of the neighborhoods. We have 3 neighborhoods that have historic lampposts that were put in the 1920s. And we're having a battle getting those replaced with something that at least looks similar. They're basically putting in something that is not historic even looking as replacements now. So it's a battle we're dealing with, but I want to make sure that that stays on the forefront also.
Oh.
And then it's a good issue. It's, how do you manage infrastructure elements in historic districts or historic areas is important. So, yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at.
Thank you for bringing those concerns to us.
Mm-hmm. Any other places, histories? We're not only just looking at buildings, but we're also kind of trying to get an understanding about the history of the county and KCK. It's about, what parts of history do we want to understand and recognize? Kansas City, Missouri has, their jazz history. What does KCK have? What's its history? If we understand our history, if we understand the full breadth of our history, then we can take the next step and understand what are the buildings and places associated with that history. So I know there was a lot of different ethnic groups that came and settled in KCK. What aspect of that history is important?
And I think that ethnic melting pot that came across, because you're correct, in the Strawberry Hill area, there were numerous, every ethnicity had its own Catholic church or other church, their own denomination. The Germans went here, the Croatians went here. That is how it was divided. And I think calling out some of that ethnic diversity that has been here for well over 120 years is super important to that.
Great.
So like migration patterns could be like a good argument for.
Yes. I mean, with that lens, you have the Wyandottes being forced in, the Delawares being forced in.
Exodusters.
Exactly, the Exodusters coming up the river, and then European groups coming into the meat packing. And now in more modern times, we're seeing a lot of the Hispanic population moving in, and that population growing or exploding in growth. So,
the police department has a language line when for officers to access. There's 76 languages on that language
Wow.
for Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't want to forget the 1951 flood. That was a big time for the meatpacking district. That was all down there in Armadale. Affected a lot of families that lived down there as well, of all nationalities.
Yeah, I worked on a house down in Armadale, and we took the inside wall treatment off, and there was mud 5 feet high in that wall.
Wow. Is this plan, Randy, is it for Kansas City, Kansas, or do you cover all of Wyandotte County?
Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay.
With the unique relationship we have with Edwardsville and Bonner Springs, the preservation department, or at least the historic preservation side of things, does not cover them, so we cannot implement a historic preservation plan.
Okay.
For them.
I just, sometimes it's really, I've learned that it's unclear sometimes when it's countywide versus city. So I just wanted to clarify.
So this is a citywide plan that's going to be part of the countywide comprehensive plan.
Okay.
There's a go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is something that might not even still be a thing, but there was like that one lone house that wouldn't give up like their land when KU was trying to build the medical hospital. Like, they were like holding out. I'm like, would that be the stuff? I don't know. It's just like
it depends on the house.
I don't even know the address, but I know that.
Like around KU Med?
Yeah, it's like one house and they were like, we're not moving.
Is it still there, or did KU buy them out eventually?
I know as of like
That was a big deal when it was
Yeah.
happening,
3
but
years
I
ago,
don't,
it was
I
still
don't
there.
remember where the house was.
Yeah. Anyway, that'd be cool.
Well, I'll have to look into it, because if it is a historic home, then yeah, that'd be.
It'd be the only house left in that area.
Yeah. If it's still there.
Yeah, unfortunately, universities can kind of just do whatever they want. Kansas law they don't have to get permits, which means that there's not much we can do from stopping them from demolishing our history.
Wow.
Which is that church at 7th and State.
Oh.
And the problem with that church is that nobody wants to spend the money to rehabilitate the building. So what the college is going to do is they're going to tear the building down, and they're going to use parts of that in the new building for the college. And they're going to make a special section. Because I have a friend that used to pastor that church.
Okay.
And I built a 6 foot tall walnut cross for that church.
Wow.
So I've got a little bit of history with that church myself.
Yeah, that is their plan. I'm not going to say whether I think it's a good idea or not, but that is their plan.
Well, the building's in really bad shape.
It is in rough shape.
Really
I've
bad
seen
shape.
worse restored though. That's the
So isn't it against the law for them to tear down historic buildings? So basically universities are above the law? Is that what it's?
Yeah, there's a couple of comments in the chat. I don't know if you could read them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tamara, there is no way to stop them. I called SHPO about it. It's a weird intersection. SHPO is the State Historic Preservation Office. They are the end all be all in the state of Kansas about preservation. And I'm like, what happens? Like, they don't have to pull permits. They don't have to seek permission. They're supposed to talk to SHPO, be like, hey, this is historic. Can I tear it down? And SHPO's going to be like, you should probably find another way. But there's no way for SHPO to know if they just do it. And that's the problem. We are lacking preservation resources in the state of Kansas, that we don't have the ability to police all of our sites and to make sure that they're properly being taken care of.
You would think a lot of times, like universities being academic and a lot of historic stuff, that they would have that best interest in mind. But
universities and hospitals destroy more historic properties than any other entity.
Wow. Interesting. I'm learning so much today.
It's an uphill battle in preservation.
And it's pretty much centered around money.
Yeah.
Because that's the reason that church is going away. There's no money to do anything else.
Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes mistakes happen. There was a case I had a few months ago. A funeral home tore down a historic property. I caught them, and I wanted them to make a museum exhibit dedicated to the property and the person was named after it, the Leland Cunningham House. Well, I said, before I force them to make a museum exhibit and put it on public display, I should see if there's even any information out there.
Mm-hmm.
That was all that was left of whoever Leland Cunningham was the house named after him.
Oh my God.
He was obviously important to our history. Don't know why.
Wow.
Nothing else is left. So that's kind of how important this stuff can be, because I had to make a plaque. Is that enough?
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Well, if you guys ever have anything more you want to talk about or are interested in preservation at all, please feel free to reach out at any time. My email and phone are always open.
Hey, Randy, I was going to ask, is the information flyer that we developed for our visit last week, I don't know if you have that handy because it has that survey on it.
I didn't think to bring that.
We can
I will
Yeah.
send it to Kayla. If you can send me the digital version of that, I'll send it to Kayla and she can disperse it for us, which I'd appreciate. Share it with your friends, share it with everybody. I believe it's also going up on the Plan KCK website soon. That or the questions are being incorporated to this survey there. Please fill that out. This is your future too that we are trying to design. So.
All right.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you all virtually.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you're keeping cool over there.
Trying.
It's hot over here, so.
Have a good one, Nick. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.